Sure, he's coming down.
Hello?
Would you come down, please?
Yep.
Let's see. Good afternoon, folks, again. By the way, how are the calzones? You can be seated. Were they, anybody who didn't like them? How about the staff down here ate all the chips before I got any, but we have Subway tomorrow. Okay, good, let's go.
Mr. Balch, I want to show you another video that has been admitted into evidence. This is Exhibit 11. This is the Corey Elijah or Corey Washington live stream. We've got it paused here at, I believe that's the 54-minute and 30-second mark, or let's be precise, 54:29. Do you see yourself in this video?
I do.
Okay. We're going to play this video forward for about 20 seconds, and then we'll pause.
Okay.
That's fireworks being lit down there.
Anybody else that said that there's Patriots LARPing here? I don't know what that is. You young kids.
Now, Mr. Balch, what we've just seen in that video, it showed you walking near the gas price electronic sign there for the Ultimate gas station. Would you agree with me on that?
I would.
And you appear at the end here to kind of walk behind that, almost at the corner of 60th and Sheridan. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
Did you just see the defendant run through the screen?
I saw him, yes.
Now, you had testified earlier that when you were at the Ultimate gas station, you were looking for him. It appears that you were within 10, 15 feet of him. Did you see him at that time?
No.
If you had seen him, what would you have done?
I would have went with him.
Is it after this point then that you returned to the 59th Street car source?
I headed in that direction, yes.
And you said you didn't make it there because why?
Shooting started.
What shooting was that?
I had to point at the thing.
Sure.
I headed across 60th. The Bearcats were right here. When I got there, a sheriff's deputy held me over to the car. The Bearcat, he opened the door. I sat there and had a 2 to 3 minute conversation with him maybe about what was going on over there. At that point, he directed me to go behind the Bearcats to go across the street. So at about that point, I moved west across Sheridan Road. When I got there, I turned to go north, and that's when I heard a pistol shot. And then almost immediately following it, I heard 4 rifle shots.
What did you do then?
I turned and headed south,
Where did you go?
towards where I'd heard the shooting. So I was right around in here, and I ran across the street into this green area here, telling everybody to get down. And then I got to the end, overlooking this area here. There's like a low wall. And then shooting erupted behind me over in this general area.
When you say this general area, can you point the pointer at that again, please? I'm
Yes.
sorry I missed that. You're pointing to the area along Sheridan Road, south of 60th, sort of in front of the Boost Mobile and Check and Go?
Correct.
Again, we're going to try and play this artificial thought process.
Right.
I know you probably know now what that was, but let me just ask, first of all, at the time, the shooting you just described, at that time, that night, did you know what was going on?
I had no idea what was going on.
With the benefit of hindsight and watching all the other videos now, what was that, if you know?
The first shooting that I heard, the pistol shot and then the rifle shots, whereas the engagement between the defendant and Rosenbaum and the people that were with him down here. The secondary shootings would have been Anthony Huber and Gage Gorowitz.
Is that Gage Grosskreutz?
Gorowitz, yes.
It's kind of a difficult name. Can I just ask, Mr. Balch, when you were, where were you specifically when you heard or observed the shootings of Mr. Huber and Mr. Grosskreutz?
I didn't visually see them. I heard them.
Okay.
But I would have been right in this area right here.
Do you know if the shootings of Huber and Grosskreutz were further north of where you were at on Sheridan or further south, if you know?
It sounded like they were coming from behind me, so they would have been to the north.
Okay. We're going to have another video. It's just going to take a second to set it up. This is going to be Exhibit 5. It is the BG on the scene video. And I'm going to be playing a portion at the end. Can we rewind just a little bit from there, please? Keep going back. Keep going back. Keep going. All right, play from there, please. This is at the 43-second mark in the video. We've already had some testimony about this video, but Mr. Balch, do you see anyone that you know in that video?
No.
Okay. There's an individual there that is standing. There's two individuals that I see on that screen. The one on the right is kind of in all dark and appears to be holding a rifle of some sort. Do you know who that is?
I have no idea.
Okay, can we back that up again about 10 seconds, please? And then I'll play it forward. Yes. Mr. Bulch,
That would appear to be me.
that's you, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're actually, at this point, north of where the Huber and Grosskreutz shootings occurred. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
So when you said earlier you were south of it, it turns out you were actually north.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you did? Actually, before I ask that question, we can see in this video that the defendant, Kyle-Rittenhouse, is walking up the street after he has just shot and killed Anthony Huber and just shot Gage Grosskreutz in the arm. At the time, and I know with the benefit of hindsight you've watched these things, but at that particular moment, had you any idea what had just happened?
No.
Did you see those shootings?
No.
Did you see the defendant?
No.
You've been trained in the military, been around shootings before, fair to say?
Yes.
How is it possible that you didn't see those things?
I wasn't looking down the street when it happened.
Did you hear those gunshots?
Yes.
Did they draw your attention to that area?
Yes.
Did you look?
Yes.
So how come you say you didn't see?
Because by the time I got that far, close enough to see it, everything was done.
Did you see the bodies? The body of Mr. Huber.
Yes.
At what point, when you're moving down the street, did you see him? See that body?
After I got to Grosskreutz, when I got down there, Jason Lekowski was helping put a tourniquet on his arm. There's actually a video of that where I come around the side and ask everybody's all right if they got it. Saw the wound on Grosskreitz's arm. Holy crap. And then I ran over to check Anthony Huber's body.
When we've played this video before, we've heard a lot of people's voices shouting out about the defendant. That's the guy, whatever, things like that. Did you hear any of those voices at that time?
I wasn't really trying to pay attention to what they were pointing out.
When in this process did you realize that an individual or individuals, people, had been shot?
Well, I'd heard the shooting, so I knew that there was shooting going on. I didn't know anybody had actually been hit until I got to Grosskreutz.
Is it fair to say that this wasn't the first time all evening that you'd heard gunshots?
We had heard them a couple of times throughout the night.
When you would hear gunshots, would you wonder if that meant someone was injured?
Most of the time they were far enough in the distance that there would be very little impact from us going in that direction.
I think you testified earlier that what originally started you heading south was hearing the pistol shot and the 4 shots that occurred at Car Source and 63rd.
Correct.
And that, according to the map, is about 3 blocks away.
Correct.
You talk about hearing other gunshots that are in the distance. Why did the shots here 3 blocks away attract your attention when others did not?
They were a lot closer than the other ones had been, and there was the potential that people that I was with that night were down there.
Did you think to yourself, that's the defendant?
No.
You didn't know, did you know where he was at?
I didn't know where he was at, but I didn't assume who had been doing the shooting.
When we see you in this video, is that after you have looked for the defendant?
Yes.
When we see you in this video, did you have any idea where the defendant was?
No.
When we see you in this video, had you checked at Ultimate Gas to see if the
Yes.
defendant was there?
Yes.
Did you find him?
No.
When we see you in this video, had you already traveled north of the police line at 60th?
Yes.
Had you seen the defendant up there?
No.
Is it fair to say that at this moment in the video, you didn't have any idea where the defendant was?
I had no idea where him or Jason Lukowski were.
And even though he's walking up the middle of the street near where you're at this point in the video, you didn't see him?
I didn't pay any attention to him, no.
Who is the first person who's shot by the defendant that you went to?
Grosskreutz.
Did you help to treat him at all?
I made sure that Lukowski had everything under control. I saw that he had a handgun in his hand. I already knew that a pistol shot had been fired and some rifle shots. I kind of assumed he was the person that shot the pistol shot. But as far as who had shot him, I had no idea. In fact, for a minute there, I thought it was Lukowski.
Who had shot Mr.
Yeah.
Grosskreutz?
Yeah, because he was already there.
After you dealt with Mr. Grosskreutz, what did you do next?
I ran over to Anthony Huber.
Tell us about that.
He was laying kind of slumped over in the gutter a little bit there in the street. There were a couple of protesters kind of around him. When I ran up on him, they ran off. I started to roll him over, check on him, put my hand on his neck to see if there was a pulse or whatnot, and didn't feel one, but it was really just like a split-second check, and then the Bearcat pulled up next.
When you say Bearcat, you mean one of the armored law enforcement
Yes.
vehicles? And what, if anything, did those folks do?
They climbed out. They told me they were going to take him, so I kind of gathered up his stuff that was laying on the ground, put it on him, helped him load him up in there.
What did you do next?
I continued south.
Now, I know you described what you've done so far with Mr. Huber lying there. Did Mr. Huber say anything?
Mr. Huber was deceased, as far as I'm aware.
So at the moment you came upon his body, he was already dead.
So far as I know, yes.
And you said you continued south after that?
Correct.
Where did you go?
I went to the 63rd Street location.
What did you find when you were there?
On the way down, I heard protesters saying somebody else had been shot down there, and I could hear shooting going on at the 63rd Street location, or thereabouts.
What did you do once you got to the 63rd location?
Once I got there, I had somehow on the run picked up a couple of folks associated with the protest who were armed as well. Mr. Lukowski came in not too soon after that. Because you could hear the shooting coming from this area over here. And there were protesters kind of like huddled over into here.
I just want to make a record, Mr. Balch, because we need to be able to have everything typed in. So if I could just describe what you've just shown us, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I think you had pointed the pointer at the 63rd Street area in the block west of Sheridan Road between there and, is that 10th Avenue? Yeah, between Sheridan and 10th Avenue. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
And I know you indicated there was an area where, did you say there were gunshots that you heard coming from?
Yes.
Can you again point so I can make sure I am, okay. You're describing the area that is sort of the west half of the block between Sheridan and 10th Avenue along 63rd on the north side of 63rd. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
And you indicated you heard some gunshots from that area?
Yes.
Do you remember how many?
There were quite a few.
Did you see anybody who was doing the shooting?
I didn't visually see anybody shooting, but once we moved into this area right next to the building, I kind of popped around into those cars. There were like 2 or 3 cars over in there. And it looked like this building right here was where it was coming from, but there were also shots coming from further back.
Okay,
And
if I could just please make a
Yep.
record of all the things you just described. You indicated that you were in the car source lot near the building on the car source lot and kind of looked around it. Is that right?
correct.
Would that have been along sort of the south of that building looking west?
But it had been to the south looking down to the west, correct.
And you indicated that you saw something, you described a building, and I think that building was at the southwest corner of 10th Avenue and 63rd Street. Is that accurate?
That would be accurate.
What did you see again or observe at that location?
It looked like there was somebody standing in the second floor window, and they looked to be holding a gun. To get a better look, I kind of moved out into the cars and faced in that direction. As soon as the person in the window saw me, they ducked around the corner. And then bullets started coming from the west and started hitting the car that I was hiding behind.
The person you saw in the window, is this a window of a house?
It looks like a house, yes.
This is someone inside a house holding a firearm.
They may or may not have been.
And then bullets came from the west and hit the vehicle that was near you?
Correct.
Did any of those hit you?
No.
What did you do as a result of that?
One of the folks associated with the protest was behind the car with me. I told him to get behind the car source building, and we scooted around behind the building real quick.
What happened then?
That point, there was a white car that had caught on fire. The gas tank went off on it. Kind of poked our heads back around. By that time, SWAT was directly behind the building from car source. And they're like, hey, somebody's over here shooting, get the fuck back around. So we just stayed over there.
This is after everything relevance.
Searching for the relevance, Mr. Binger.
That's fine. Let me skip ahead for a moment. Can we show exhibit number 13 at the 2140 mark, please? You had testified that when you went down to the 63rd Street location, you saw that plastic bag on the ground. Is that right?
Yes.
I'm going to have an image of that up on the screen, and I'd like you to take a look at that when it's ready here. Is this at the 2140 mark?
Yes, that is a car fire, but there is more than just a car fire going on here. All right, guys, it looks like there's an interview going on. We're going to see if we can squeeze in on this.
timestamps mixed up there. We're going to play a little bit of that video here. I'd like you to take a look at it if you could, please. Thanks.
All right, guys. So here's what we got going on. We are not trying to spook anyone. We're gonna move in. It looks like.
Okay, just play the video, please. Thanks. Mr. Balch, there's an object on the ground on the left side of this view screen. Do you see that object?
Yes.
Can you identify that for us?
That's the plastic bag that I picked up to take a look at.
That's the one that Mr. Rosenbaum threw. Is that correct?
Correct.
Couple more things finally. After all is said and done here, you stayed at this location and spoke to some individuals who were from the media. Is that fair to say?
We kind of got ambushed by them.
Well, make it sound like they were trying to attack you. They came up and were...
Yeah, they came up out of nowhere, and we weren't expecting them.
When you say we, who was with you?
Jason Lekowski was with me.
When these folks asked you your name, what did you tell them?
I gave them a false name of Thomas Craig
Why did you do that?
to protect my identity so that I could get out of there and figure out what was going on.
There were folks there that showed you video of what had happened that night.
Yes.
In those view screens, were you able to see the defendant?
One of the live streamers did show me a picture of the defendant when he was laying on the ground, being struck on the head, I believe, when he fired his weapon.
From that, were you able to identify that that was someone that you had been with
Yes.
that evening? Did you admit that?
To them, no.
In fact, when they confronted you on it and accused you of knowing exactly who that was, you lied to them and told them you did not, correct?
Correct.
And when I discussed this with you, you gave me the explanation that because you were concerned for your safety at that time?
Yeah, we were surrounded by several people, and there were groups of them milling around us as well.
At that moment that you lied about knowing the defendant, you still had your AR-15, correct?
Correct.
And your Glock,
No, I didn't have the Glock at this time.
and Mr. Lekowski was with you.
Yes.
Was he armed?
Yes.
Were there police cars nearby?
Further down the street from us, yes, but they were dealing with the shootings and whatnot.
Once you were informed that the defendant was the one who had been involved in these shootings, was a suspect, did you approach the police that night and tell them about your information?
No.
I have nothing further.
Thank you. Mr. Just 1 second. Does anybody need a break? Go ahead.
Broad question. That evening, while you were out on patrol with my client Kyle-Rittenhouse, you're armed, he's armed,
This is correct.
and you went by law enforcement on numerous occasions.
Yes.
Did anybody ever tell you you can't be out there with these weapons?
No.
Did anybody ever question you or him about your age?
No.
You were interviewed several days after this by the FBI, correct?
Correct.
And they specifically asked you about that bag, correct?
Correct.
And reading from the report, you told them you examined the bag quickly and observed an ammonia mixture and a small bleach bottle, correct?
Correct.
Is that what you observed?
That's what I thought I'd observed at the time.
By smell?
I didn't check the smell.
Okay. What made you think it was ammonia?
Because of what we'd been hit with earlier in the night.
And when the bomb had been hit earlier in the night, Mr. Rosenbaum was there with that bag, correct?
Yes.
You testified that when you were out there that evening at the end, you didn't have your Glock, correct?
Correct.
You had borrowed it to Nick Smith?
He told me his name was Nathan, but yes.
Okay. So you were using a pseudonym, false name?
Correct.
Nathan was using a false name?
Yes.
Did he give you a false name, or did he say Kyle Rittenhouse? I'm pointing to my client.
I don't remember if he gave me a pseudonym or not. He went by Kyle most of the night when he was talking to me.
Kyle.
Yep.
You refer to a man and a woman who you always saw with Rosenbaum, correct?
Correct.
Can you describe that man?
He was tall, scraggly looking with a beard.
Okay.
He had like camo shorts on too, I think.
Okay. Do you remember anything about the top?
I can't remember the color of the top specifically.
Yeah. Do you remember anything specifically about the woman?
She had a black backpack on. She was a little heavy set, maybe.
Do you remember anything about her hair?
I think it was dyed a bright color, maybe.
Okay. I'll show you a picture, see if you recognize these individuals. How's it? I'm going to show them this, then we can print it out. So, yeah. Showing you a photograph from my associate's computer. Do you recognize anybody in that picture?
The female with the red hair is the one that was accompanying Rosenbaum, and the other male.
Okay, the other male is not in the picture completely, correct?
Correct.
But that is the individual
Yes.
who was with Mr. Rosenbaum. Do you notice anything in his hand?
He's got the handgun in his hand, as usual.
And you might not be able to tell, but with this bar right here, does that tell you where that was?
That's at the Ultimate gas station.
And you and my client were present when Mr. Rosenbaum threatened you and Kyle, correct?
Correct.
And he specifically said if he got either of you alone, he would expletive kill you.
That's correct.
Any doubt about that?
No doubt about that at all.
Told the FBI that?
Yes.
And that was right after, I'm going to get his name wrong, Dustin had put out dumpster fire?
Correct. It was about 20 to 30 minutes before we headed south and the shooting started.
And Mr. Binger asked you some questions about, did he try to attack you at that time? How many guys were there?
There were about 4 or 5 armed men in front of him.
Okay, and there's some other armed men on the roof
Correct.
that were upsetting him because he,
He seemed to not appreciate armed men.
okay, and you specifically referred to him, and I wrote the words down, he was a hyper-aggressive individual, correct?
That is correct.
Could you tell me what that means to you?
Every encounter I saw him have with someone was extremely aggressive.
You saw him lighting fires?
Lighting fires, getting in people's faces, protesters and armed individuals were having to get between him and other people to stop fights from happening.
Did you see him tip over the porta potty?
I didn't witness that.
Okay. Did you see him take rocks out of the St. James rock pile?
He got the rocks he was throwing from somewhere.
Okay. Did you see him involved in taking the trailer out of St. James, taking it down the road and starting it on fire?
I didn't witness that event.
I have nothing further. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Any question?
Couple things, Mr. Balch, and then we'll be done. You testified you gave a statement to the FBI.
Correct.
That was dated August 28th of 2020. Would this sound right
Correct.
to you? Yes?
That sounds correct.
3 days after this incident.
That is correct.
When you spoke to the FBI, what was your intent?
Well, I really didn't have any intentions of speaking to the FBI. They just showed up at the house. I gave them what information I could remember and what I could make sense of. They were very clear with me to only give them the information that I was 100% sure about.
Did you withhold any information from them?
No.
Did you tell them the truth?
Yes.
Were events in your mind clearer 3 days after the incident than they might be now?
Even then, it was, the whole situation was kind of a big jumble of, and I was trying to put timelines together. So I had told them explicitly that my timelines are going to be a little off.
I understand that, but do you think your memory of what happened on the night of August 25th was better 3 days later than it is 14 months later?
It would be, yes.
When you spoke to the FBI, did they identify themselves as the FBI?
Yes.
Did you know you were speaking to law enforcement officials?
Yes.
Did you understand that if you didn't tell them the truth, that that could get you in trouble?
Yes.
And you wanted to be completely honest with them?
Yes.
Did you understand that they were asking you questions about a homicide?
Yes.
Did you understand that it would be helpful to give them as much information as possible about what happened here?
Yes.
Was that what you wanted to do?
Yes.
Did you want to cooperate with them?
Yes.
Did you want to tell them everything that you knew about what happened?
Yes.
In your statement, you say, and I'm going to quote, this is on page 3 of your statement, Balch stated that this eventual victim, who's Joseph Rosenbaum, was carrying a hospital-style bag with chemicals to make Molotov cocktails. You then say later on that you, this is on page 4, Balch examined the bag quickly and observed an ammonium mixture and a small bleach bottle. First of all, am I reading your statement to the FBI correctly?
You are.
None of that is true, is it?
It doesn't appear to be, no.
Nowhere in this statement to the FBI did you mention any tall guy with a scraggly beard or a shorter woman with colored hair, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
Are you lying under oath today?
No, they just never asked those questions.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when the FBI talks to you, they don't write out a statement for you, let you review it for accuracy and completeness, do they?
No.
They just ask you questions, they show up to your house unannounced, You answer the questions, they leave, and they write down what they think is important.
That is correct.
I have nothing further.
Okay, folks, let's break for the day, and please call after, excuse me. Okay. I'm thinking about my Monday juries when we finish for the day. Please don't talk about the case. Read, watch, or listen to any account of the trial. And I'll turn you over to the clerk of the court, and I think she could probably take care of it here in the library, maybe? Or maybe they want to go upstairs anyway. You have things upstairs? Why don't you go up there, and we'll tell her to go up there and see you there. Thanks. See you tomorrow. Coming on schedule, but how are we coming on this anticipated schedule?
I'm glad you asked. We have witness Jason Lukowski, who will begin tomorrow morning and will be similar, I would expect, in length to Mr. Balch. After that, we do have a witness that I'd like to start Monday morning for scheduling purposes. We're going to do a very lengthy one that'll be Gage Grosskreutz. What I'd like to do for the rest of the day tomorrow is we have a number of other witnesses that will be shorter, hopefully shorter. So my hope is to get through as many of those as we can. And the bottom line, judges, if we get to the 3:30 in the afternoon or thereabouts, I'd rather not start a large witness on a late Friday afternoon and pause for the weekend. I'd rather do Mr. Grosskreutz beginning Monday morning. Maybe we'll get to 4:55 tomorrow. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
And I appreciate the information. What I'm more concerned with is how much of, are we going to finish next week?
I believe that we will be done with our cases probably on a Tuesday at this rate. That's my hope.
And then we'll finish this week, or next week?
I can't make predictions on Mr. Bates Trust.
Thank you.
So that
okay.
would be what I would hope for tomorrow, Judge.
Okay.